Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and today has been one wacky day, but we will get through it. My guest tonight has a very interesting background. Brother Rezz Yisrael was born and raised in Banneker City, aka District of Columbia. And for the last 25 of his 42 years, Rezz Yisrael has been a progressive vegan and raw foodist who has lived in Puerto Rico and Costa Rica and traveled throughout Central America, Canada, and the Caribbean. Rezz Yisrael is an avid researcher and naturopath who specializes in indigenous folkways, herbal remedies, medicinal mushrooms, psychedelics, raw food preparation, and suppress free energy technology. Please, thank you for your patience and let us welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G, Rezz Yisrael. Welcome to the show at
Hey,
last.
peace
I
and blessings.
cannot believe what happened. How are you, my brother?
All right, greetings, peace and blessings to the family out there, all the brothers and sisters, and we appreciate you all's patience. Little technical difficulties, to say the least. Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. To those of you who are my regulars here on the on Office Hours with Dr. G, this my computer went out about 5 minutes before 8 o'clock before we were to get started, and I was scrambling trying to get it to shut off so that I could reboot, and it would not. It still would not reboot, and so now I am at doing this broadcast on my cell phone. So why you won't be able to hear my Dr. G theme song because I don't have that music on my cell phone. It's on my computer, and hopefully my PC is just having a moment. It's just having a day like my day um, has been today. How are you all doing? I'm just uh, turn on the lights. I think they might be asking you, Brother Rezz, to turn on the lights, but we already went through that. That's about as bright as we're gonna get um, for where you are. Unfortunately, like I said, it's been one of those days, y'all. I almost canceled because it's just like one thing happening after another today. Um, Started with my refrigerator.
Yes.
Started with my refrigerator, cleaned out my refrigerator. We did last night because the new refrigerator was to come this morning, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. And it did not arrive. And then by 5:30, I'm at the Best Buy trying to find out why my refrigerator was never delivered. And they told me, showed me a picture and said we were at your house at 7:03 in the morning and we stayed there for 15 minutes, which is not true because I was up at 6:30. They just didn't, they took a picture of my door, but for some reason they didn't want to deliver my refrigerator. So needless to say, I have a whole bunch of food that's not in the refrigerator, but it is cold outside. So my deck is doubling for and bins are doubling for a refrigerator. So I was having a screwy day from the beginning. And so now we're having some technical difficulties with the computer, but we're here. This is 2 weeks in the making. I'm gonna tell you all, yeah, all is well. Thank you all for understanding, for overstanding rather than understanding. I was trying to get Brother Rezz on a couple of weeks ago. He was recommended by dear friends of mine, excuse me, who I had on, Mia and Antonia Bay, who were on. Gosh, they were like my second guests when I first started this, doing this particular broadcast in May. So it's been since May. I started a lot of things in May, and they highly recommended you. Now, Brother Rezz, I'm gonna warn y'all. He's very soft spoken. It may be because he's so chilled out because he works with psychedelics and all that stuff. Maybe that just gives you a mellow demeanor. But in your most forceful voice, so we can hear you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like I said, I read your background, and you were born and raised in Banneker City, aka DC. Chocolate. They also call Chocolate City too. Is that the one they call Chocolate City too?
Check, check.
Chocolate
Yes,
City.
yeah, yeah. We
So
still do.
right. So Chocolate City in DC. You were born and raised in that swampy area, that political uh, uh, mush up there. But
Yes.
you have been involved. You've been a vegan. You're 42, but you've been a vegan for 25 years. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so yeah, greetings to everybody out there. Yeah, it's been about 26, actually 26 years now so
Okay.
far. Yeah, yeah, vegan, raw food is living a lifestyle, most humbly. Um, and we've been researching throughout that time period. Yeah, as you said, yeah, from DC, chocolate, um, south side, southeast, northeast, and greater southeast PG, all parts of DC. Haven't lived in southwest though, but yes, indeed. But yeah, I wanted to get to if it's no if you could, Dr. G, wanted to give people their attention's worth. So I wanted to get some solutions out there because most of us, we well aware of what the what the issues are, So I wanted to give some solutions out there so people can walk away, and be able to apply some things, in their daily practice. Yeah.
Right. Now you've been extensively in Central America, Costa Rica. You domiciled rather in Puerto Rico and Costa Rica. So while you were there,
Mhm.
I would assume you got to um, work with a lot of the what we would maybe shamans or native folk that had very natural solutions and so forth. How much time did you spend
Yeah.
living abroad in those areas?
Yeah, so yeah, Costa Rica had been a few times actually, and about 5 times in Puerto Rico in total. And we used to live in both places. Lived in PR first, and then in Costa Rica thereafter. Yeah, we did pick up many many different things from the indigenous people, learning how to recognize things, certain plants you'll see that in the land that actually produce their own nectars, and you can actually drink straight from certain flowers. For example, some of our viewers may be familiar with the tropical flower called bird of paradise, which is you find throughout the tropics. And one of the indigenous, they showed us how to basically recognize which type of flower that grows there, and how you can just drink the sap, the nectar, straight from the flower itself, and just right there in the land, things that you don't typically think about, when you coming from an inner city.
Hmm.
Um, yes, indeed, but
Does
yeah,
that have a medicinal property?
um, it does, but it's very light though. It's like it's very light, like a maple syrup. It's not. It's more of a light aromatic type of thing. It's not it's not one of your first go-to type things, but I mean, when you're in the land, and you're not close to a water source, it's something definitely that you can turn to, when you don't have a spring around, most
Now,
definitely.
one of the things I've noticed in those tropical areas. Now, I spent about almost a week in Puerto Rico, in Bayamon,
Mhm.
last July, and one of the reasons why I went was to learn how to identify the various plants that were good for medicinal and for poultices and tinctures and soaps, and I ended up making soap out of something. I don't know, remember now, but I brought a
Hmm.
lot of herbs back from Puerto Rico, and I still have a great big bag of them, and I can't remember what I'm supposed to do with them. So I don't know whether I brought back tea or whether I brought back something. What I'm supposed to. So I got a big bag of stuff. I may have to take pictures of them and shoot them to you, and you can tell me what I'm supposed to do with them. But
Yeah.
I learned that there's so many things that are right there for the picking. You know what? We go to the
Hmm.
supermarkets to get these fruits and vegetables that need to, that they preserve and spray wax on them and different things. And here you can go right, they on the side of the road, you could get, bananas and what do you call it?
The
Mango and breadfruit
yeah,
and all this stuff.
yeah,
I mean,
breadfruit,
I
papaya.
saw grapefruits on the property where I was. There was so many things. There was avocado. I got to um, enjoy for the first time Ganepus
Oh,
while I was there.
Ganepas.
So
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
So I mean, but it's like right there, and they have an advantage. People who live in the Caribbean, where the fruits and the vegetables, the healthy stuff is very readily available, and you really don't
Hmm.
even need a supermarket. Nature has a
Yeah.
supermarket for you.
Yeah, it's quite yeah, it's quite interesting because when you delve back into the land, you and in the research to the best of our research, we have rediscovered that there's well over 3 million humanly edible fruits and herbs on the planet at any given point in time. um, there's just like human beings, just like ourselves, you have some plants that may go extinct one day, and you have ones that are still evolving. um, the one thing I would love to really stress and emphasize to all of the sisters and brothers out there is the archetypes of things, or you can think of it as the polarity. Some people describe it as duality or duplicity. Um, but to make it plain is just basically that ancient combination of that which is masculine and feminine, or that which is linear and that which possesses curve to it or curvature to it. So you take, for example, like something that we all know, like most of us know what an avocado is. So we look at the curvature of the avocado. We look at the fact that it has one seed in it, and I've never seen a seedless avocado in my life, whether in the land, in the tropics, or, right in the hood. So generally, we say in naturopathy that, your avocado, just like your raw cacao, avocados are generally good for the heart, as well as many other things, because you have the fat content in it, and it's a green food, having the outer black and the green inner, but it actually has a gold and a green inner inside of it. Actually, it's actually good for your mood as well too, and as well as the heart and your circulation and your brain as well too. um, but that's a very staple food, that we generally turn to things like organic non-GMO corn, especially your purple corn, your raw cacao, things of this nature, and things that have a lot of color to them. So but we tend to recommend things that contain fat first, because fat carries that feminine imprint to it. Your avocado, your olives, your raw cacao, things of this nature, your aki, or aki as we say. That's one of another tree fruit that has that fat to it. The fat is really the flavor. That's really what we're going after. And in addition to the salt and the different, savory elements to the foods. When you take the fat out of something, it just it don't it it don't really do it all the way, when you take the fat out of something. So the industry knew that, so they tried to supplant it, with sugar, you know. Um, but one thing I really want to emphasize to folk is that when we say archetypes, just to be clear, what we're saying is that every food, every herb, every plant, can, it carries a certain imprint to it. Um, for example, something like cinnamon carries a very warming imprint to it because it's the outer bark of a tree, it's the skin of a tree. And so when you take something like cinnamon and you put that into something like an apple cider, or you put that on top of applesauce, or you mix it with something that it contains chilies, something very warming, very comforting, especially this time of year with the season that we're going into now. So, we want to turn up the spices right now, especially this type of season we're going into. So we're looking at going, into your chai, your spice latte, your cloves, your cinnamon, things of this nature, your cumin, your allspice, these sort of things is something that we really need to really rely upon, especially this time of year going into our cold season. Most definitely. Um, but there's a lot of things that we can, use, and we can, things that are very powerful, very powerful. Things like also lemongrass, things like anise, as well as star anise, seed, you know. But we usually recommend cinnamon first, because cinnamon goes with your chocolates, cinnamon goes with your cider, and it goes with a lot of things. All of our people that like the pumpkin spice and, things of that nature in the squash family. We really, really recommend cinnamon to them. And all of our tea drinkers, all of our tea drinkers, people that like to do the lattes and the chais and things of this nature, and definitely raw cacao, without question, is an absolute staple. Something that is an antidepressant, something that is good for the brain, the heart, the circulatory system, um, as well as something that you can really, you can really rely upon to, mineralize and remineralize the body, something that is good for the heart, and something that is, your number one source of magnesium, as well as many other, without getting too technical, that has many other minerals and trace mineral content within it, that goes quite well in combination with a lot of other with a lot of other medicines out there, And so, oh, I'm sorry, as we would say, it's a food, it's a medicine, and it's something that is really a true antidepressant. And anyone that lives in a city, we always recommend those first two things, which is always passiflora, or passion flower, as a botanical, and your raw cacao as a food and as a medicine to rely
May I
upon.
might I ask now, does cacao is cacao raw cacao in chocolate or not? Because a lot of times people say a piece of chocolate just makes them feel better, but is there actually the cacao in say a piece of chocolate, or is that you can't get it that way when you're saying raw? It's without the sugar and all that other those added
Yes,
things that they
indeed.
put in, say, a confectionery type product.
Yes, so to be crystal clear for our viewers, so raw cacao, Although some of us refer to it as a cacao bean, it actually is a nut, is actually what it is, botanically speaking. It's a tree nut, Theobroma cacao, which means God food or deity food, is actually what it is, botanically speaking. Um, Now, cacao actually comes from the indigenous word Kaka'u. If you pronounce it very slowly, it's Kaka'u. But when you say it very more quickly, it's Kaka'u. What I learned from the indigenous. The word chocolate comes from a Mexican word called chocolatil. Chocolatil is the root the indigenous word of where they get the word chocolate from. Um,
Mm.
choc Yeah, chocolate is more of a Latinized French word, which means the the milk version of cacao or raw cacao mixed with some type of dairy is what it implies. But raw cacao or chocolate in its raw form is a very, very potent medicine. It's an ancient, ancient medicine, is actually a, a sacramental food, which to this very day, excuse me, to this very day is actually utilized in ceremony. They still conduct cacao ceremonies all over all over the planet, not just in the tropics. Cacao is utilized along with medicinal mushrooms, with cannabis, with cacti medicines. It's also used as a catalyst with various psychedelic medicines, along with passiflora. Now, passiflora or passion flower is the number one before any other herb. That is the number one herb that we recommend to anybody, especially those that uh, are connected to closest to the land. I'll say we recommend that all city dwellers take passiflora in a tea form. So we recommend spring water, natural spring water harvested at the source. Um, that can be referenced through one site. I'm not effectively connected to this particular resource, but a person can look up on findaspring.com. It's free. Don't let the .com throw you. That's
Did
not
you say
my
it's called
site.
findaspring.com?
Check, yeah,
Yeah.
findaspring.com. One word, no punctuation other than the dot before com. And anybody and everybody can go online. It's totally free, and they can source a natural spring source where a person can go to the land directly, literally, specifically, and harvest spring water at the source, at the actual exit point where it comes out of the ground. So anybody that's in the DMV area, just to be clear and precise, in case if we did not already know, the nearest underground source for the water for the spring, which is called an underground watershed, is called the Tuscarora Aquifer or Tuscarora Watershed. So anybody that resides in the DMV area, that is the nearest watershed that we actually live on top of. It's completely underground. Um, to the best of to my research, that that watershed goes back hundreds of years, a minimum of 200 years. Um, so basically, anywhere that a person lives in the country or in the world, if we have anybody any listening internationally, anywhere in the world, the underground aquifer can be it can be discovered and can be sourced out, and that resource can be accessed. Yes, indeed. Um, so of course
Now, is
the
this a place do normally do people bring their own containers and do they pay to get it, or is it free access to those springs, or are they on private property or government, so-called government property?
Yeah, so this is completely wide open. There's no governmental controls. There's no corporation oversight. There's no impediments, no fences to be jumped, no barriers, no barbed wire, or anything of that sort. Um, so a person can actually go directly to the source. They can harvest there in the land. Um, it's accessible 24/7. Specifically, I'm thinking, just so people understand, I'm thinking of the one that is one of the closest ones in the aquifer that I mentioned, with the Tuscarora underground aquifer or watershed, which is located in Frederick County, Maryland, which is about, uh, depending on where a person is in the DMV, that's about one county away from where we are, located in Maryland right now. But this can be all accessed online if for those that reside anywhere in the DMV area or anywhere southern Pennsylvania down to Richmond. Um, but yeah, a person can simply bring their containers. They can fill up at will as much as they can haul away, and it's completely there and available now, 24/7. It's not one of those places that has any opening or closing time. So we generally recommend that a person, um, you know, rely upon spring water. I know there's a lot of controversy or some controversy out there with the various types of waters. I know some of us out there tend to defer to filtered water, meaning municipally sourced water that's going through a filter of some sort, and then you have some that defer to waters that have been boiled or distilled. So, just to keep things kosher with everyone, we in naturopathy we always recommend spring water if at all possible. But of course, that depends on where a person is located at. To the best of their abilities. If they're not located near a spring or if that's not feasible, then of course, by all means, boil the water, filter it, distill it. If a person has an ozone um, machine, they can ozonate the water. There's many, many things that can be done, um, to the best of a person, whatever they have at their disposal, depending on where they're located at.
So
Um,
when you talk about spring water, you're recommending spring water as a regular, everyday practice, as opposed to, if you can, if you're anywhere near a source, that you
mhm,
can go to a natural source and then it's not necessarily tap water being run through a, well, sometimes they say in some cases, some bottled water companies are accused of just bottling tap water and
mhm.
selling it. But
Yes.
where it's coming from if it's coming right out of the ground. But you mentioned that along with the cacao and
Mhm, mhm,
being something that someone needs. But when we spoke earlier, you were talking about cacao with I think we were talking about the mushrooms or psychedelics or something like that. And
mhm,
I'm sure there are people that would love to know about that, because I've always wanted to know about the sort of like the ayahuasca type things. But the way you explained cacao to me, or this was my perception of it. when we spoke, was that, for instance, a crystal, if you know about stones and so forth, a
Mm-hmm.
crystal, a quartz crystal, is an amplifier. You could put a quartz crystal with, another stone, and it amplifies. It kind of goes with almost everything because it enhances it. And that was the impression I got when you spoke of cacao with some of the other herbs that are of benefit, that when you add cacao to it, it just super enhances whatever it is, the characteristics, the medicinal properties, or the
Yes.
I think you said some of the things help you push you further into maybe a place of openness and awareness and so forth. So could you explain um, a little bit about cacao and its use along with other medicinals and fungi, or whatever you want to call them, mushrooms, shrooms as people call them, um,
Yes,
and
indeed.
it is it legal you know,
Yeah.
in the states to for some of these things. Although we know the properties and what they do might be good, but do we have to be careful when we use some of these things? I mean, from a
Okay,
lawful
so
standpoint. Can
okay,
you speak
so
up a little bit louder
yes,
too? Because
indeed.
I'm straining to hear you, so I know they are. I know how you talk low, but I need you to talk.
Yes, indeed. So okay, so first, yes, so we'll get to some of the nitty of the gritty now. So first of all, with the legality of it, so to be clear, okay, so DC has actually passed Initiative 81 as of this month, actually. Excuse me, as of this previous month, they just passed a law that, although it's not technically a full fledged decriminalization of it, but it is a green light that is in the direction of decriminalization of it. So DC, Oregon, California, Washington State, and a few other states, to our current awareness, they are in the process of decriminalizing various plant, bacteria, and fungi or fungal medicines. And mushrooms is definitely one of the top ones at the list. Also, cacti medicine as well. So, right now in DC and several other states mentioned, it has technically been placed at what they call the lowest priority for law enforcement officials and authorities. So they're basically down stepping it, so that to use their terms, they're putting it at the lowest priority for law officials right now. So now, the thing with raw cacao and with psychedelics, I would say, knowing what we know now and in full understanding, that I would not say that any major government in the world will completely do a full decriminalization, because these are plants and cacti and mushrooms and various substances that are too reactivational, too uh, reactivational. And when I say that, these are plants, these are mushrooms, these are cacti, these are various things such as cannabis, such as peyote, and many, many different things that actually allows a person to begin to lift the veil from the mind's eye, to be able to break spells, crack codes, to be able to make and break quote unquote bad habits, as we would say normally. What they really do is they really allow you to get back in touch with your core self, your wild self. As we say in holistic health, it's always about rewilding. It's always about unleashing that which we would innately do, what we would organically say, what we would really do, and how we would really behave. And so, with that said, we approach these substances because these are very precious, noble substances. So we first approach them with a certain degree of reverence, respect, and regard. And we look at these substances as a very sacred thing, a very sacramental thing. And so we don't want to trifle with them. We don't look at them as merely recreational. And we don't, this is not a frat party. This is not, um, it's something um, to be piddly with, So we first approach it, with the respect for Pachamama, Mama Nature, Yamaya, Gaia, by all of her names. She has many, many different names. Um, so that's the first thing. And then we also want to really tap into um, our organic selves, because as we always say, there is you and there is yourself, the real you, which we would say is timeless, shapeless, formless, colorless, and ageless. you know um which has many names. We can, it has the many timeless names of a soul or a spirit, or the infinite. I'll just call it the infinite for right now. And then we have, of course, the physicality that reflects that infinity, which is, this physicality, this this space suit that we wear, upon planet Earth.
Mhm.
Um, so we want to first with reverence, and then we want to realize that we can really tap into many different ways of looking at what is already within ourselves, within the nature, as we always say, P and P, perspective and perception. So we really want to unlock the mysteries, some of them anyway. I'm not going to say all of them, but of course, there's always going to be mystery, in the journey, in this plane, in this reality on planet Earth. But there's certain things that we can come to a greater understanding and overstanding thereof. And the beautiful thing about psychedelics is that it cracks open your eyesights. And I say that with no mistake. Your eyesights. I say that uh, with intention. Um, your inner eyes, your outward looking eyes, and our inward looking eye. You know, um, as I love to remind all of the viewers that our wise elders and our ascended masters were always called seers, and they were called seers for a reason, you know. And the psychedelics, they allow you to begin to see and to perceive the I'll call it the extra reality that in our ordinary reality version 2.0 we're not able to perceive, with our two frontal eyes. Um, but when we tap into that third ventricle, when we tap into the seat of the soul, or rather the throne of the goddess force and the God force within, then we can begin to really shift the paradigm and really move things. And So it's really we in science we call it the inner engineering, the inner or inward engineering, and it's really about rebuilding oneself back up, that inner work, that dark stuff, that really that dark force within, because of course, as we know, the darkness comes before the light, and so we want to really tap back into the dark divine feminine forces that come back within. So that's why things that are very, very powerful medicines, they tend to almost always they carry a bitter, in terms of the imprint, the flavor. They carry a bitterness, such as your raw cacao, your mavi or maobi bark, your serasi, or the botanical name is Mo mordica, is the botanical name, or better known as serasi or bitter melon.
I have
And the,
Saturday tea. And what is that? I was turned on to it when I was in Puerto Rico. So, and
Mhm.
I couldn't remember why I got have it, but can you tell me about the benefits of Saturday?
Serasi is one of our top staple, absolute staple go-to grandmama herbs. Serasi is a climbing, it's a leaf that has five digits on the leaf, on the actual plant as it grows, and it produces a beautiful golden, bright golden yellow pod. And inside that pod is these bright, extremely bright, almost like a fire truck red, uh, very, very bright, almost like a blood red or fire truck red seeds. So so first of all, we look at that imprint because it's a red, golden, green plant, botanical herb. Number one. Number two, it grows almost exclusively in the tropics. It can grow in subtropical areas as well. It carries a five digit leaf. Um, when you look at later on, when you look into the numerology of that, and you look at the very significance of five as well too, and also it's a very bitter, not the most bitter, but it is one of the top bitter botanical herbs that we use in herbology and we use in naturopathy. The very powerful thing about the momorica or cerasi or bitter melon is the fact that it goes in and it nourishes the adrenal system. It works with the kidneys. You have on top of our kidneys sits our two adrenal glands. The adrenal glands is what many professors talk about in academia about the infamous thing of so-called fight or flight, fight or flight, as they call it in the academic realms. Basically, the kidneys, they channel or produce the chi or the key force, depending on which scholar you reference. Some sources say that it actually produces the chi. Chi is just another term for the metaphysical energy that channels through our physical bodies. Um, we tend to defer to splitting the difference, and we say that the kidneys channels the chi or the key force, because when we are exposed to um, sudden stimuli, something that catches us off guard, the body requires the kidneys to begin to instantly put a halt on utilizing the fluids. And it's very similar to a hydraulic effect, because remember the body is predominantly water. Now, you may have heard it said that the body is approximately 70% water, but actually that's inaccurate. If a person is properly hydrated, the body can be as high as 85% water. But I know that's going to contradict what most of us have heard, because most of us live in cities, we live in populated areas. So that 85% is usually reduced down to about 72 to 75%. But a person that is well hydrated, that's breathing deeply, doing their pranayama, that's sun gazing, grounding their body, charging up their iris, sun gazing, getting in direct contact with the earth, properly hydrating themselves and deep breathing on a regular basis, and doing living foods, especially things such as fresh organic sprouts and green juices, including chlorella and spirulina, and the freshwater and saltwater algae. You want to combine, we always recommend you combine your algae, your freshwater algae, which is most people know as E3 Live, that comes from Klamath Lake, Oregon, and then your saltwater algae, or what they call marine phytoplankton,
Mm.
um, which is a saltwater form of an algae. And just to be clear for our viewers, we're basically talking about a bacteria, basically, that lives exclusively in either fresh water or salt water, you know. But yeah, but a person who is properly hydrated, and I mean on a regular basis, they could get as high as 85%. But typically that's going to be 72 to 75%. And if a person is an omnivore, with all due respect to everyone out there, if a person is an omnivore, and especially if they are, depending on the lifestyle, if there's cigarette smoke coming into the system, and, if various substances such as pharmaceutical drugs coming into the system, then the hydration, of course, is going to be borderline 70% for that individual. So
Yes.
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Doc.
No, I'm just um, I know you're trying to speak in that mic, and I know we already have the challenge of your voice being being very, very low, and some of the viewers are having difficulty hearing you because and I told you this. I said you're gonna have to act like you're yelling to me from across the room, because it's kind of hard
Mm.
to really oh my goodness. My phone is let me plug it up. It's telling me I need to charge it. This is terrible, y'all. Y'all, this has been one heck of a day.
Well,
Can
we
you ask
appreciate
Brother Rezz?
everybody working with us.
Yeah,
Yes,
can you
indeed.
I'm looking at questions. Can I ask you
Yes, yes,
about
yes.
the medicinal benefits of Eastern pine needle tea to boost the immune system? Listen, y'all, I'm gonna try to plug this up and see
Okay.
if I can reach to a plug at the same time. Uh,
Okay.
oh goodness gracious! Can you answer that? I only have like if I had no
Yes, indeed.
intentions of interviewing you on my cell phone, and I never thought about in terms of I
Check.
needed to.
Okay.
um,
Okay. Well,
okay,
okay.
we
So,
gonna do this, y'all, until I can't do it no more. Look, because
okay.
the
Okay. So,
I got 15%, so we're gonna go as far. Look, and no place. I can't even reach. I have no place. If I go, I'm gonna have to get down on the floor and talk to you from the floor with the plug in order to get.
yeah.
But before,
Yes, indeed.
look,
Okay. So we'll go after. So,
kinfolk, y'all know me. Y'all know. But this is just
okay.
one of those days. You know when they say when one thing happens, it just snowballs into another.
Check.
Um, but before I run out of time and stuff, I went. There was a question on here about whether or not I think
Oh,
it had to do with
peace.
protein. um, how
Okay.
one gets protein. I think if you're
Okay. Okay. The
on a raw
protein.
food diet, or I guess even a vegan diet,
Okay.
how do
Okay.
you yeah, how does one get protein? I'm also going to put up your link,
Hmm.
because we didn't get to it, but you actually have, and I want to throw this in because I don't know when this thing is going to die, but you
Okay.
actually have a website, because
Hmm.
you have some of these medicinal um, food slash herbs you have
Hmm.
available. So I do want you all to know that he does have products, and I've always wanted to try some of those things that you have, and I asked the question also whether or not they are best done when you have somebody accompanying you, particularly the ones that are
Yeah.
whatever you call, yeah, whatever you call the psychedelics or the shrooms. I mean, can one do that alone, or do they have to have somebody with them to make sure they don't, think they're Superman and fly out the window or something?
Yes, indeed. So okay. So briefly, okay. I want to go after a couple
I
of
know I said
things.
15 things, but I'm trying to get it all in
I'm
before the
with you.
phone.
Check. Not with you. So okay. So first, I want to let's try to bust up the protein myth. So we're gonna go right at it, family. So everyone brace their melanin. So I want to say shout outs to my colleague at a distance, I guess I would say. Shout outs to Dr. Ali Muhammad, because it was a very critical piece of research that basically was an adjunct to some research that we had been doing over the years. So, okay, protein. So, first, I want to be clear and precise, family. What is it actually? Okay, so when we say protein, we're talking about a hydrocarbon that is bound to nitrogen. Now, a hydrocarbon, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. You can say a hydrocarbon or you can say a carbohydrate. Molecularly, it is the exact same thing. Now, protein is one of those things that the system has basically put out to us and promoted to us in the masses as something to be desirable, and that is protein is a non-issue. So basically, when you have a hydrocarbon or carbohydrate comprised of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, when you combine that in any way, shape, or form, whether in a lab or outside of a lab, when you combine that with nitrogen, that's when it becomes a poison. And so there's a lot of times that over the years I have constantly, repeatedly had to deal with the protein myth. But I want to really, really be clear and highly, highly emphasize to everyone listening, to everyone viewing, that protein is a non issue. The three basic tenets of all nutrition and nourishment for the human being, for the metaphysical and the physical human being, is always based in three things, which does not change throughout your entire life cycle. That is always moisture, minerals, and microorganisms. Moisture, minerals, and microorganisms. Nitrogen is a poison to the human being constitution. When you take a look at the research from many, many different angles, not just from one source or one peer reviewed journal, any which way a person wants to look at it, we're going to the science now. This is not I feel, I think, I believe, I guess, I agree, or I disagree. This is straight science. Nitrogen is a poison. It is one of the top five poisons to the human being constitution. Your top five things to avoid is always alcohol, chlorine, nitrogen. Let me state this clearly, precisely. Five, you can think of it as a countdown in your mind if you want to. Alcohol, all forms of it. Alcohol, chlorine, phosphorus, nitrogen, and sulfur. These are your top five substances to avoid, hands down, period. Whatever the system calls it, they love to repackage all five of those poisons, and they try to make them into something that is desirable, i.e., protein, i.e., MSM, which is methyl sulfonyl methane, which is a poison. Ask yourself the question, where does this exist in nature? Where do we find MSM at in nature? You do not find MSM in nature. You find it in a laboratory because it is a lab based chemical. It is a substance which industry tries to peddle off onto the people. These are not noble substances. What we advocate for, we only rep the goddess, the divine feminine force of Pancha Mama, Yemaya, Gaia, Mama Nature, by all of her names in all of the 7,000 spoken languages on planet Earth. We stand for the divine feminine, the dark force, which has many, many, many different names. That we stand for that which is bitter, darker, cooler, that which cools the body. You want to cool the tissues, not those substances which inflame, inflammatory things that inflame the body, such as fire water, such as uh, uh, substances like nitrites and nitrates and barbiturates and pharmaceutical uh, drugs, specifically NSAIDs or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs is what NSAID is an acronym for. So to be clear, I want to really be clear to the people on this protein thing because I have heard this for over 25 years and counting. Protein is a myth. It is a poison. It is a way for industry, big agribusiness industry, to peddle off something which they used to flush down the toilet, flush down the drain. They want to incorporate that into products, into substances which they repackage and peddle onto the people. But let us be precisely crystalline clear, family. Protein by any name is a poison. It is a non-issue. The question is not where do we get our protein? The question is where do we get our zinc? Where do we get our magnesium? Where do we get our silver at? Where do we get our gold from? We want to think about cobalt, silver, gold, copper, platinum. We want to think about iridium. We want to think about noble substances that are going to resonate with the microbiome of the body. We want to ascend. We want to work towards becoming an ascended master of ourselves. We are a living aggregate. We are metaphysical and we are physical. Let us be clear, family. Let us be very precise and clear. Protein, by any other name, is a poison. It is a toxin to the human being, physical constitution, to the entirety of one's biochemistry. It does not resonate with us, family, and we can prove it. We can reference too many citations. Anyone can email us. They can email us directly if they need citations. We can bring it. There's too many to list off in such a brief moment, but suffice to say that first of all, the uncommon sense is to first that grandmama uncommon sense. Grandmama said, if there's a question, then it is questionable. We must first ask ourselves within our own minds, where did the very notion originate that came up with the proposition that we need to begin to pay attention to this substance which they call protein, or they call it branch chain amino acids, and then you have to get into the biochemistry and study further, getting to amines and amides, and but without getting too technical, suffice to say, it is a toxin, it is a poison, and that is not the question for a indigenous human being of planet Earth to ask oneself. We are a human being, not just human, we are a human being. And we want to deal with noble substances which resonate with the humors of the body, that resonate with the tissues, resonate with the brain, all three brains, the cerebral brain, the gut brain, the cellular membrane brain. We want to deal with these things that are going to resonate with the organs of the body. We want to deal with substances such as chaga mushroom, such as reishi, such as ormus gold, and noble substances such as your your shilajit, pure
That is,
crystalline
may
resin. Yes, yes,
may I
yes.
interject for a minute about Sheila's? That's that black powder.
Yes, indeed.
And what is the benefit? And also, I recently got some chaga mushrooms.
Hmm.
I'm hoping it's all right for women to drink it.
Hmm.
But I kind of mixed it with some other teas. I had the big chunks of chaga. I have rather, and
Hmm.
I've steeped it with oregano tea,
Yes.
some olive leaf tea,
Hmm.
mint tea, and green tea. I did like a a big pot of with all of those together. Does that
Hmm.
become a problem, or does it take a? And then there was also a question in the comments or comment about pine needle benefits of taking pine needle tea
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
and sassafras. So now I've gotten sassafras. There's a brother that brings me fresh sassafras root, and he goes to this wherever he goes, and he tells me he asked permission of the
Hmm.
tree to take some of the root, and he comes back and he's brought me. I have some that he's brought me back in the wood, the chunks of it. But the pine needle tea, you said yes, that's a good.
Yes. Yes. So pine needle. Yes. So pine needle tea. Now that one. That's a nice. I mean, that's a nice tea. We would generally recommend that you do that with bamboo leaves as well. Um,
Okay, I'm
pine.
getting ready to lose my power.
Pine.
Okay,
Okay.
don't
Oh,
don't
okay.
let me seem like it's.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So. Appreciate you all
Y'all, I'm
bearing
going
with
off
us,
the
family.
camera for a minute. I have to, I have to get
Okay.
him.
Yes, indeed. Well, appreciate you all bearing with us, family. Yes. So going right to it. So pine needle tea.
Bear with me.
that is a nice tea. We would recommend that. Although it's not a first choice tea. That's more of an adjunct that we would usually combine with other botanicals. We would recommend that you do the pine needle tea with either bamboo leaf bamboo leaf tea, the actual leaves of the common bamboo that we're familiar with, the Chinese, stalk that, resembles sugarcane, just to be clear for everyone. Um, we would recommend bamboo leaf tea with your pine needle tea. You can also combine that with a little bit of Camellia sinensis, which we typically call that green tea, white tea. Just to be clear, so everyone is on the same page, the botanical name for for the herb is Camellia sinensis, which is typically referred to as white tea, green tea, oolong tea, as well as black tea. They are all the same plant, same species that are simply at various stages of their growth and maturation. So there are different stages of development.
You see.
So yes, indeed. So pine needle, yeah, it's nice. It's very, I mean, it's very light. Depending on, what one's intentions are. But we do recommend that. But quite honestly, we would suggest that you do that in combination with other botanicals. You also could do it with something like lemongrass as well too, or something that's light, um not something that is too heavy, something like lemongrass, something like bamboo. All of those are very light herbs, so or even a white tea, or what they call peony tea, Peony. That's another very light tea. So yeah, that's a good one when you're in the mood for something, light that's not too overbearing. Yes, indeed.
Now,
And
what
the other
again? What about the chaga mushroom? The chaga.
chaga. Okay, now chaga is a staple. We recommend that for all greater and lesser melaninated folk out there. Chaga is a staple. It is an absolute, not merely a recommendation. We would suggest that people carry that, or keep that as well as they keep their keys in their phones and devices around. So to be clear, chaga, the botanical name of it is called Inonotus obliquus, Inonotus obliquus, which is also called the melanin mushroom, originating from Siberia. There's some debate on that, but the general consensus is somewhere in Russia. It is native to Canada, but the general consensus right now in science is that it originated somewhere between Mongolia and modern day Russia and Mongolia. It is referred to as the melanin mushroom, and it is the queen. It is the queen and the empress of all medicinal mushrooms, and we mean all with no exception. It is the queen, the reigning queen of all
Here,
medicinal
it looks like a
mushrooms.
piece of. This is not a piece of chicken. This is a piece of chaga.
Yes. Check. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified. Yeah, I didn't want nobody to think that was a chicken
It
nugget
does
or
look like
nothing up
chicken,
there.
doesn't it, on the screen? But it's a big old bag of chaga.
Yes, I recognize it. Yeah, yeah. No, we recognize it.
But I didn't know
Appreciate
it was
that.
as important. I didn't know it was as important as you said. You said it's a staple. It's a something that we should have.
It is
Um,
an
but it
it
is
is
for immune support. So I guess, yeah, it would be
A absolute staple. We could not we could not do what we do without using the chaga medicinal mushroom. So to be clear, your reishi mushroom, that's your king. But again, chaga, or you can say shaga or chaga. We can say it
Shaga.
every which way. I've heard it pronounced several different ways. That is the reigning, forever reigning queen and empress of all medicinal mushrooms on planet Earth. And that's including psychedelic mushrooms as well, because chaga is an adjunct and a catalyst, and it can be combined with your raw vegan cacao, your raw vegan chocolates, your treats, your truffles. It can also be combined at will with your psychedelic mushrooms and cacti. It can be combined with your cannabis for all of our cannabis lovers out there. You can combine that when you want to take your edibles to another level, no question about it. Your chaga goes also with your raw cacao. Those two go together quite lovingly, without a doubt. Also, you can do, this time of year, when you want to, when you want to fluff up your melanin internally, you do a little shaga. You can do a little warm brew or cold brew, shaga cider. Whip out that organic cider, pull out your organic raw Vietnamese cinnamon, get you some shaga that's been ground up, powdered up. You know what I'm saying? And get you a little pinch of shilajit, or if you don't have shilajit on hand, get you a little bit of reishi. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have reishi, you can use a little bit of chili pepper, or Cheyenne, what we call cayenne pepper. It's really Cheyenne chili, to kick up that heat. You need a little heat. We need that heat. We need that heat. And when you combine the heat and the bitter, the melanin just loves that. It loves that internally. And see, we want to deal with that melanin internally. Because see, we're not just skin deep. We're not just skin deep, beloved. We want to deal with that internal melanin. We want to go to the cellular level. We want to go to the bone marrow. We want to go into that spinal cord. We want to go to that real melanin. Shout outs to Rest in Power, Dr. Laila Olela Africa. We want to deal with that internal melanin, that core. We're not skin deep. We want to deal with the melanin on a cellular level. As our beloved, ancestral, one of our beloved elder scholars reminded me, in person and out of person, that in science, I'll just reword it, and put it in our words, that in science we want to deal with the cellular level, because that microcosm inside of, the macrocosm of the body in science, what we call a body is really an avatar. It's a bio body suit. It's called a microbiome, or a microbiome, you see. And what we want to do is we want to think on the cellular level internally, because in science, in that laboratory, or in that laboratory, the real melanin that we deal with is that which goes into, it goes across that cellular membrane. In the lab, they use what's called a gold gun, a literal physical gold gun. This is real. This is documented. You can follow up and check on, verify what I'm saying. Check what I'm saying, family. There's a gold gun that in the laboratory that they have been using against us all of our lives. What they do is they take various forms of viruses. Whenever you hear the word virus, viral, or viruses, they're talking about weaponry. They're talking about biological weaponry. Anytime you hear the word virus, viral, viruses, or any derivation of that term, they are referring to biological weaponry. So the body at a cellular level does not recognize when something, a substance has to cross the membrane, the cellular membrane, to get all the way into the inter and intracellular environment of the cell. That's where the magic is. Because at the cellular level, we're talking about the mitochondrial DNA. See, they in science they want us to focus on the nucleus, the renewed sun, the renewed star. That's what nucleus means. It means the born again sun, the renewed star power. Star, as in Starbucks. You know, you have the star of the Walk of Fame on Holla Hella Wood. We don't want to just deal with the sun. We want to get into that dark force. We want to get into that goddess force that's inside of the cell. And inside of the cell, you find the mitochondria, the mitochondrial DNA and RNA. That's where the magic happens at, not merely in the sun. Yes, the nucleus, no doubt, the nucleus plays a part. It plays a role in the totality of the chemical cascade which occurs. In science, they call that the Krebs cycle. For my academia folks out there who know about the Krebs cycle, for the rest of my lay folk around the block that trod in the road, for for those of us that may not be in the academia realms, that's basically a chemical cocktail is what we're talking about. We're talking about how when we insert something into the body, when we take a substance into the body is guaranteed to do one and or two things. Whatever we intake into the body through any orifice whatsoever, what is guaranteed to occur is that the body is going to basically repackage whatever it is and biochemically convert it into something else, and or it's going to unpackage that substance, whatever it is, and it's going to make a whole myriad of other chemicals, and biological processes. It's going to fuel with whatever that substance that we intake, you know. And those are the two. I'm just simplifying it without getting too technical into the Krebs cycle and the biochemistry of it, you know, for everyone.
Well, there was a question here.
Yes, yes.
I want to grab from these questions. There was a
Yes,
question
indeed, Lord.
about what you would
Ashay.
recommend for oh, hi, Dr. Ross Golston. What you would recommend for a stroke victim, someone who
All
had a
right.
stroke? Are there
Okay.
any medicinals that
Yes,
um,
indeed. All right, check. Let's get the solutions to the people. Going straight to the solutions. Okay, for a stroke, which is known as an ischemic infarction, better known as a stroke in allopathic medicine. So, solution for that, first of all, we want to go into the vascular walls. We have to depressurize the circulatory system. We have to relax the muscles that actually are around the tissue, what's called the interstitial fluid, which is the largest organ of the body. Now I know we've been taught. I know we've been to somebody's school, so they taught us erroneously that the skin is the largest organ, and we have to say no. That's utterly false. Um, Bless their academic hearts, but that no. Science is clear. The largest organ of the body is called the interstitial fluid, better known as the lymph or the
Lymphatic system.
lymphatic fluid. The lymphatic fluid,
Mhm.
the lymphatic system is a subset of what we call the endocrine system of the glands and organs of the body, more specifically, the glands of the body, which the allopaths refer to as the immune system. I want to recap and be clear for our folks so we all on the same page. So, what they call the immune system is in naturopathy is called the system of excuse me, the endocrine, endocrine, the endocrine system of glands or glandular organs, is how we typically say it in science. It is the endocrine system of glandular organs inside of the physical body. When the largest organ of the body, which is a fluidic organ because it's not fixed, which means it's female, it's not fixed because the imprint of a female is chaos. That which pertains to a male is a fixed imprint. But because the skin, the seven layers, not three, but the seven, to be clear, the seven layers of skin in some sense is fixed to the physical body in terms of how it is overlaying of the flesh or the muscle tissue, even though we are moving it at the same time. But the skin itself does not, flow around the body. So in a sense, is fixed in that sense. But the interstitial fluid is constantly moving the same way the heart continues to pulsate. The interstitial fluid continues to flow and move throughout the entirety of our circulatory system. What was the other thing, Doc? I wanted to make sure I get to all the
Well,
answers.
for a stroke, what do you recommend
Stroke.
for a
Yes, yes.
person who's had a stroke?
Yes. Okay. So the first thing we recommend specifically is they obtain a botanical a herb which is called Dan Shin. It's called Dan Shin or Dan Shin, Dan space Shin, Shen. This is a well-known herb or botanical in TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine, which has more than a 5,000 year documented track record. Also, this herb, which is called danshin, that's the that's how it's known. If you go to like an herbalist and ask for it, the other name, it has several names, but the two prevalent names for it is danshin, and the other English name for it is called Chinese red sage root, or simply red sage root. This is specifically for the heart and the entirety of the cardiovascular system. We would also recommend that they begin to take very mild MAOIs, very mild ones, not strong ones, but mild ones. MAOIs is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. So, a safe one that's not too strong for someone that has experienced a stroke, aka an ischemic infarction, would be passiflora or passion flower leaf tea or passion flower tea, whether it's the leaves or the flowers, either one, or the leaf and flowers can be utilized. That is a very mild MAOI. Usually in the scientific literature, they do not generally refer to it that as such because it's a very mild one. So it's very safe. So if anybody is taking any medications or any, on any type of pharmacological agents, whether over the counter or whether by prescription, Passiflora is a very, very safe and mild MAOI or monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Also, we would recommend highly that they take lemon balm. Lemon balm, BALM, not to be confused with lemon verbena or lemongrass, but lemon balm, also known as Melissa officinalis, which is the same spelling as the common name of Melissa. That's partly where that name comes from as well too, for a lot of you ladies. Um, there's many things out there that can relax the system. Lavender is very nice, but we would recommend the essential oil of that. Anything in the mint family, such as peppermint or what's called winter mint, or sometimes it's called winter green as well. Definitely, without a question, Egyptian chamomile, specifically Egyptian chamomile, not German chamomile, but specifically organic chamomile that was grown in Egypt that came from Kemet specifically, not the European version of the chamomile, the Egyptian chamomile. Um, but there's many things as well too. You also have what's called vasodilators, such as bacopa. This is the botanical name of another herb that is well known in Ayurveda, or the Indian, as in India, East India, as in the Indian system of healing medicine and botanical modality. Excuse me, Indian system of modalities and botanical medicines. The botanical name is called Bacopa monieri. Bacopa monieri, with two N's, also known as Brahmi, Brahmi. This is another staple botanical herb, which is also a very nice bitter. It's a smooth bitter, similar to cerasee, but it has the effects of vasodilation, specifically for the brain, for the cerebral brain, as well as for the rest of the cardiovascular system. Now, for my people that are into doing the shakes and the smoothies, and so-called smart drugs, or they're called nootropics, nootropics, spelled the same way as tropic, same spelling, Nootropics, but it's pronounced nootropics, which basically means they call them smart drugs. These are basically extracts of certain plants, certain herbs that have the beneficial properties such as vasodilation. And one of those extracts is called vasopressin, VASOPRESSIN. Pressin. This is known as a vasodilator for the brain, especially, and that can be sourced through a myriad of products out there that are on the market. Nature's Path, Nature's Way, Garden of Eden. You have many of your common things that you find in Whole Foods and things like that. They have that.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes,
If
indeed.
some, I think I put your email, I had it wrong, I think. It is Yahoo, not Gmail, right?
Yes.
Or is it Gmail?
No, it's Zirlah.
Well,
At
y'all see, like, totally ignore what I have up there all this time. So let me, let me fix it. You cannot get to him because I want, I want,
yes, yes,
I cannot
LAH.
see. I can't see with
Yeah, I'm glad you
glasses on.
pointed that out. Yeah, I'm glad you
So,
pointed that
okay,
out.
so it's so it is. Let me take this down.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
ZIR.
Z
Uh,
L
ZIR
A H
check. Yes, indeed, Doc.
LAH.
Check. That's correct. Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
I'm so not with it today. Okay, let me say that. So I probably had the other. I also had your website up wrong because I had ZIRIAH, so it's LAH. Okay, let me fix
Yes,
that one
yes,
too.
yeah, that's
Totally
zero.
ignored.
Uh,
I even had it up totally wrong at
that's correct.
gmail.com. I realized it wasn't that, but
Yeah, 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 yeah,
an
yeah.
I and an L, they're very close. They look alike. So
Yes,
let me put the
indeed.
right thing up here because I want people to be able to get in touch with you. I'm saying this on the video that everything that preceded this that was up was wrong. So please do not try to contact them from those. But now I do have the right, I think.
That's
Um,
correct, Doc. Check.
okay, it wasn't right before though. It wasn't right
No,
before.
yeah, appreciate that
I just want to make
correction.
sure that people can contact you. I'm just having one of those days, so it is just
Yeah,
that it's
we
just one of those things. But if I was going to ask you, if someone like the person who had the question, because you have quite a few things that people, that the person could potentially take. If they emailed you, reach out to you, would you be able to provide a list of some things, or even either things that you have available um, through, your company, or that they could get elsewhere for a particular situation that they're trying to bring into balance?
yes, check. Yes, indeed. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, there's specific things that we can provide to the family, to the people, and whatever else beyond that, we can certainly turn them on to other suppliers, nationally and internationally, because, for example, there's some things, certain substances, particularly certain medicines and certain botanicals out there. And when you get into the alchemy of things, there are certain specialties out there that some people have been at for years and years, and they have that very specific niche. Um, so for certain things, we're going to turn them on to the best of the best available. So anyone that reaches this way, just brace your melanin, because we're going to turn you on to the best of the best, which is available currently on planet Earth. What we are about is solutions now and already, and it's only a matter of not what to do, but what to do first and what to do next. So the question is always is what's up first and what's up next, um, but never otherwise. So um, but yeah, to be clear with the family, yeah, so we're going to definitely defer to the most classically and readily available things, which are available, all things considered, of course, with the scenario right now and everything. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what to call that anymore, but with the ongoing scenario, some things, some sourcing has been held up a little bit, but nevertheless, the medicines are still
Okay, I'm
reachable.
gonna get a couple more questions in here. What was
Yes.
forget? There's a question about what's good for insulin resistance.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so insulin. Okay, so first to be clear, so we know what we're dealing with. Okay, so insulin, we're referring to a hormone. Insulin is a hormone. Um, you know, produced and secreted by the pancreas. Now, in Eastern medicine, particularly in TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, the spleen and the pancreas are given much more credence than it is over here, in the so-called West in Western medicine. Um, for resistance, the first thing we have to do is address the number one culprit, excuse me, the number one and number two culprits, which is flour. All manners of flour, by any name, flour is the number one culprit that is going to attack the spleen and the pancreas. And so, to be clear, the insulin, being produced in the pancreas, but there's a relationship there with the spleen as well as um, the liver, in particular, not to mention in particular the liver, and then we would have to mention the kidneys as well. um, but for resistance to that, we first have to look at lifestyle. So we look at the person's lifestyle. We look at if there's any alcohol being going into the system. We look at if there's any smoke of any sort going into the system or not. And we look at any fried foods. And we definitely look at the first two things, which is flour and, of course, sugar. Sugar is the number two substance, but it's a photo finish. Sugar was number one, but in the most recent years, sugar has fallen to number two, only second to flour. But keep in mind that sugar is still a photo finish for number two. But flour is the first and number one thing that we would have to look at in terms of assessing a person's lifestyle, their exposure, and then we would have to look at their chemical exposure and etc. We'd have to look at the lifestyle, and we'd have to do really a walkthrough with them, and just like producing a protocol. Um, Certain practical things that they can begin to do is also one of the first things they want to do is look at the water that they're drinking. We're going to look at the water that is being absorbed through their skin and the water that they're drinking. We're going to look at the chemical exposure. We're going to look at preservatives, different in the food and foodstuffs. We're going to look at any type of chemical preservatives, additives. We're going to look at anything dealing with what is it? Suicides, fungicides, larvicides, insecticides, all of these things that are masquerading as food and the foodstuffs. Shout out to Dr. Suzar. We're going to look at those things as well. So we're going to, we have to approach this, as a complete and thorough holistic package. So we're not going to just look at what the person is merely eating and or drinking. We're going to look at the totality of their exposure. We're going to look at the chemical exposure, heavy metals, toxins, cadmium, lead, mercury, etc. We're going to look
And
at
how
all
are
of
you
these
do? Are when
aspects.
you say looking at that, are you talking about having blood work done, or how is that
Yeah. Well,
determined?
so we would recommend that a person, if they want to go I'll split the difference. We can split the difference and say if they want to take an integrative approach, if they want to go with naturopathy or a naturopathic approach as well as an allopathic approach. So in allopathy, of course, that's going to be straight blood work, tissue, uh, you know, samples. But in naturopathy, what's done is what's called a Reams test, Reams test, where you actually that's a urine test that a clinical naturopath, a clinician, will actually look at. They would take your urine. It's you. They would swab you, and they'll take your urine, and then the urine they measure what is called the albumin. Albumin, which is a biological test where they actually measure at the micro scale. They measure the amount of albumin that is present in the urine. Albumin is basically the cellular debris of dead cells that are exiting the body. So basically, it's measuring the rate at which the cells internally are sloughing off. Sloughing, Slouffing, sloughing off. It's the same thing which occurs externally, where our skin sheds continuously. The same thing happens internally as well. And so that's this is just one test and one marker that would be looked at in terms of a holistic approach. Um, but a person can very well, if they want to do the whole shebang, they can do the swabbing, they can do the urines test, and they can also do blood work with the allopathic folk as well too. They can we quite honestly we recommend that a person, we not to be clear, we're not anti allopathy. Just to be clear, we don't throw any shade on allopathy um, because of everything that we know of. They are a necessary part of the totality of package that human beings need, fortunately and unfortunately. So just to be clear, we are not anti anything. We're not anti allopathic, because they do serve a role. It's just unfortunate that we do need to have an integrative approach. Um, where the allopaths and naturopathy, ideally we would be working together in an
Now,
ideal world.
I need to interject in that sense, because you're talking about the different um, methodologies that would be used, approaches to determining where a person was, not only with their, insulin levels and so forth, but blood tests. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a vital report that
Check.
I did on myself without
Mm,
taking any urine, without taking any blood, and
mhm,
it's
mhm.
measuring me from an energetic standpoint, and it's looking
Mm,
at blood. It looks at blood lipids. Blood
okay.
lipids too. Blood other albumin tells you where. You remember you mentioned albumin. It looks at
Mm,
the CBC. It takes the fatty acids, omega 3s, looks at
mhm,
all of that. Fatty acid, omega 6, fatty acids, others. It looks at gastrointestinal functions under the digestive functions,
mhm,
the
mhm,
inflammation and oxidation, insulin resistance, which is something that would determine the pancreas, beta cell,
mhm,
the pancreas glycemic control. It looks at takes a nutritional analysis of the amino acids, the digestive acids and enzymes, the micro or the macro minerals and the micro minerals, the vitamins and coenzymes, the genetic, the basic physical, the bone and muscle condition, the bone, on and on. And this is me. Never peed in the cup, never got stuck, but could read
Mm-hmm.
my energy and pick up my markers. On the gray is my first scan. The red would be anything that was out of range. And then
Mm-hmm.
to the left of that was the subsequent scan when I was optimized, when my frequency was optimized. And you'll see where a lot of the reds turned to green. If you went
Mm-hmm.
through the report, it changed up. So energetically, I want to tell you not to not to consider that as another possibility, because it's, to me, it's even more. We learned it's more accurate than maybe the allopathic methods of actually drawing the blood, because once the blood is drawn, it loses. We're told it's about 35% accurate, and that's
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
scary. This
yeah.
is much more accurate because it's reading the energy patterns of the blood in its natural state, still in the body, of the urine,
Mm-hmm.
still in the body.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, yeah. That's another thing too, because the other thing I wanted to emphasize to all of our viewers and listeners is that we need to raise the frequency. Specifically, we need to raise the voltage of the body. We need to literally, specifically, explicitly. We need to literally raise the voltage of the body, and we need to bring in all of our crystalline energies. We need to be sleeping with magnets. We need to be sleeping grounded. We
And
need to
I sleep grounded. Matter of fact, I'm sitting right now with my feet on a grounding um, uh, pad that's stuck
Mhm.
to my chair. My chair. What do you call this thing? The thing that you roll your chair on. I actually have
Yeah.
an earthing pad, and then I have a
Okay.
$200 sheet
Mm.
that I connect to on my bed that I
Yeah.
can I that's connected, that's grounded, that you sleep on. It's like you're sleeping on the ground as far as
Yeah.
the energies. Yeah. So there's things that people can do
Yeah.
even if
When I
they can't go outside. But the best thing is to go outside and put your feet on their bare feet to the earth. But when you can't do that, you can get grounding sheets and grounding
yeah.
pads and you know stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, another thing that we recommend, especially this time of year, which I have not actually observed anybody doing as of yet, but what a person can do. So, like many of us out and about, we have seen a lot of restaurants use those portable heaters, outdoors, when it's cold outside, so that people can, still sit outside, the portable heaters. What we would recommend is that if a person can actually find a portable heater that can work outdoors, or if that's not feasible for them, depending on, where they are and everything, if that's too pricey or too difficult, to simply find a place out in nature where they can go, if you find an open field or somewhere that's well away from, somewhere that's outside of a residential area, and and quickly learn, I mean, it's not too difficult to teach oneself how to make a fire. And what you can do is, and it's very powerful at night too, during a new moon or full moon. New moon we would recommend first, but we recommend in naturopathy that a person do full body grounding. For sisters and brothers, we would recommend that, we, you know, just, we're getting progressive, just bear with us, family. So, we do recommend that you do it nude, with getting getting back to our natural wild selves. But it would not be as uncomfortable as you might think at first, because if you, like, say, for example, You know, you go out with a best friend, or I guess maybe a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or what, your one of your partners.
Significant other.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And you all, I mean, you don't have to go to the Poconos, but y'all can, just say, y'all going camping, y'all, camp out one weekend or one night or whatever. And y'all make a fire outside, and it doesn't have to be a very big fire, because once you have a fire that's at least, it doesn't really have to be 2 feet in diameter. It doesn't have to be very big at all. You can have a very small, manageable fire, and the radiant heat of that will be enough. It'll be warm enough when you get low, once you're low enough to the ground, that you can disrobe, and you all can, once you get your fire going, and basically we recommend that you build the fire up, get the fire going to the point where it starts to crackle, and it produces those embers. When you see those embers, Embers, once you hear that crackling and it produces those embers, like like we've seen in movies and things like that. Once you hear the crackling and you see those embers begin to start to fly up in the air, that's when you know your fire is ready. So you're ready to disrobe and everything. And so you and your partner, so the two of you all can, just get low. You don't really have to be right up on the fire either, because once you're low enough to the ground might feel cool at first, but the radiant energy will give you an energetic blanket. So it actually is more comfortable than one might think at first thought. It's actually quite doable. And we generally recommend a minimum of about 20 minutes, minimum, bare minimum, pun intended.
Be
Uh,
no pun intended, being bare for a minute. But but as an alternative, you can go to
yes,
earthing.com and get a
yes,
sheet
indeed.
to put on your bed,
Yes, yes,
and
indeed,
and
indeed.
hook it up to your electricity, and I mean to the ground, and you will be
Mhm.
grounded. You can get nude without being out there on the grass. You get the
Yeah,
same effect.
yes,
You don't have to
indeed.
worry about embers.
Yeah.
or getting in trouble for being nude out in the
Well, yeah, well, I guess, yeah, well, I guess they say you won't be streaking, I guess, because you won't be in motion, at the time that you. But yeah, but yeah, after you get we generally we recommend, you lay flat. You basically do, just keep it simple. You basically do corpse pose, for all my yoga or my yoga people out there. If for those who don't know who what corpse pose is, you're basically lying flat out on your back, and you let your arms go out at your side, just ever so slightly, but you main thing, you want to just stay in a comfortable position, and so you do it nude about 20 minutes, lying out flat on your back, feet extended, but yeah, but as you say, when the couple, when they come back from the night or weekend of camping, yeah, you can go to earthing.com, groundology, I think it's groundology.net or .com. And yeah, I would really recommend the sheet. One of my good buddies, Kepra, I know he has the whole sheet, and those are really nice because they have the
right.
silver
Yeah.
fibers woven into the actual fabric of the textile itself. So we do recommend that. Yes, indeed. And they have all sorts of things. They have the cables, they have the sheets. It just goes according to what a person feels is most practical for their situation, if they want to do it for the bed or for one
See,
person or two people. Yeah.
This is my
Ah,
ground.
yes, yes, indeed. Yeah,
This is
that's the
check,
socket checker.
yeah, for grounding.
Yes,
Checking
indeed.
grounding, where to plug my sheet or my thing into check the ground. They send you the ground too. They send you this.
Yes, indeed. For all of our electricians out there, they probably recognize that. So for those folk that out there that may not recognize that, that's called a socket checker or a I don't know the
Outlet circuit
electrician.
tester. Yeah.
Yeah, circuit tester or a grounding checker. So to the best of our research, every building that's in in the U.S. Speaking now in the U.S., every building that was built, to my awareness, after 1950, it might be 1949. Don't quote me on this, but certainly after 1950, any building that was built after the early 50s is supposed to be grounded. Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Recommended.
That's one of the companion books for those unaware, or yet to be aware out there. Also, there is a documentary that can be viewed
The
online
movie, yeah, it's on YouTube.
called the ground. Yes, called the Grounding Movie. Yes, indeed. It's two versions to that as well too. They updated that information, and the new version of it is called the Earthing Movie. Yes, indeed. Very,
Mhm.
very essential thing. So for all of our people out there dealing with carpal tunnel syndrome, people dealing with tendonitis, people with arthritis, people that are athletes, people that are dealing with injuries, back, knee, spinal, joints, any problem with the joints, the back, the neck. Definitely, we recommend that they sleep uh, while grounded, um, because that will keep a continuous flow. To be clear, the earth has a constant flow charge that comes directly out of it. Without getting too technical, it basically, if you have a Gauss meter, what's called a Gauss meter, or just a typical voltage, any any voltage meter that they used to have like at Radio Shack. I know they tore all the Radio Shacks down. Um, but if you can find any handheld basic meter that can pick up the voltage of a current, you can use a basic voltage meter and you can test it directly yourself outside, and you can test it on yourself first. You can then test it on the ground. You can test it by contacting it with yourself and using grounding shoes. You can play around with that, and you can basically um, exemplify that science, right outdoors. um, and that's readily available. It just takes the use of a voltage meter. You don't need any other expensive equipment or nothing like that. Just a simple voltage meter. Yes, indeed. And definitely anyone that, because a lot of our people have back problems and neck, well, really a back problem is a neck problem, because most of us sleep with pillows, and we generally don't recommend pillows in naturopathy. Pillows are really unnatural. I had to um, I mean, to not to be a hypocrite, because I may still use one to prop myself up, yeah, but I usually wind up pushing it out of the way myself. But I don't use one underneath of my neck or under the head or the neck. Um, but yeah, I mean, depending on some people are into yoga, meditation. So I know it's a lot of yoga folk out there. Um, but in terms of specifically unconscious rest during night or daytime, we would not recommend that a person use a pillow under their head or their neck, anywhere above their shoulders. The use of it is quite unnatural, and it's actually better to have a firmer, whatever surface that you're working with. It's actually better to have something firmer underneath of us. I know there's a debate raging out there between um, sleeping on foam versus air versus springs. Um, but whatever a person chooses, generally we would recommend foam or air. I know it's not the most feasible thing for some people, because I know out there's a lot of springs that are still, in most of your mattresses. Um, but the springs, that goes into an energetic thing of when you get into the fact that the spring first of all, is metal, and it's in a coiled, it's in a conducive form. You have to tap into the metaphysical knowledge to really understand how that can sap one's energy. Um, but, there are many, many solutions we could get into in a protocol for
Well,
people to, to overturn the effects of sleeping on top of springs, of metal springs, to be
well, listen,
specific. Yes,
that's
lady.
probably we're gonna have to do that for another show at another time because believe it or not, we have hit the 2 hour and
Oh, my
almost
goodness.
2 minutes. We didn't think we would go that far, even with our even with all of
Wow, wow, wow. Where does it go?
yeah, the time goes. But we're gonna we're gonna work on it. See, you're gonna find out afterwards when you listen to this. You're gonna hear how you whispered with
Oh,
your
my
voices.
goodness.
Yeah, but I know that's.
Oh,
I mean, every
wow.
time we talk, that's the way you talk. So I mean, I know that that's how you talk. But sometimes we have to consciously make an attempt to project. Um, and then with the problems that I had today, I'm not in
Oh,
tip
wow.
top whatever, but I'm on a cell phone trying to record. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but we've done our best, and I thank you all for sticking sticking with me and with us, especially with the technical difficulties that I was experiencing in the beginning that caused us to be in half an hour late getting started almost. And so we will figure out what's going on, or I will, me, myself, and us will figure
Yes,
out
indeed.
what happened to my computer and whether or not I have to get another one. Maybe this is fairly new. It was a gift, so I need to just see. It might be some technical glitch, but in any event, I want to thank you, Brother Rezz Yisrael, Yisrael, and I can't say Yisrael with the rolling R's. I could never roll anything, so I don't get you don't get the fancy the way you said it. But I want to thank you. I want to thank
Ashe,
Mia and
Ashe,
Antonio
Ashe.
for actually connecting us. And I will be reaching out to you because I want to experience. I want to get myself some. What is it? The cacao and something else to enhance it
Retreats.
and go deeper into my deeper self. But I probably want to make sure I'm not alone when I
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want to check. I want to try the experience and see
Hmm.
if it takes me into another dimension, or maybe it makes me a blithering idiot. Who knows? But we will see. We will see.
Ashe.
Yeah, we
Yes,
will see.
indeed.
But I appreciate you for coming on the show and for bearing with me. I'm just looking
Mm.
to see. Um, okay, I have to see if there are any comments and so forth. But this has been great. Thank you all. Thank you for your comments, and there's some funny comments in there too. Some of them have said couple things that because they were trying to get your whisper. I thought one person said they were going to play the replay and turn it up real loud on their sound bar. Of course,
Well,
once
well,
they do that, I'll
well,
probably be screaming, and you may be at a normal tone. But they say your
yeah.
voice is very Max. Here somebody says Max Julian like soothing, and
Okay.
yeah. But you
Right.
are in the Banneker. Was it Banneker City, aka Chocolate City,
Sure.
aka
Yeah.
DC,
Yeah.
aka
The
aka the swamp.
yeah, the
So
Masonic capital. Yes,
stop.
indeed. Yeah.
But
The Masonic
um,
capital.
and you're available for consultations, I would assume.
Yes.
You also have your website where they can go on and I guess and purchase but I probably what you sent me, I saw a little bit more in what you sent me than what I actually saw on the site. So they might want to reach out to you, but
Mhm.
your site is zerla.square.site.
Check.
And
Yes, indeed.
yes, and so they can visit your site, and if they're interested also in any information with regards to this terrific technology that I am working with called AO Scan, then please, just kind of
Mhm.
not kind of, just reach out to me because
Yes,
this is
indeed.
absolutely amazing technology. I had a migraine headache before we go. I had a migraine
Yes.
headache yesterday that came out of the blue, and
Mhm.
so I just went on my own. It's up for me, and so I just went in here and found migraines. And when I
Yes,
got
yes.
to migraine, actually, there's an energetic um, tone that
Mhm.
matches the right frequency to correct almost anything that we might call a dis-ease.
Mhm.
And so I found the migraine, and and I played the frequency. Sounds crazy, but that frequency right there was playing, and
Mhm.
it took my migraine away. And so,
Mm.
but I had it in in the earphones, and I listened, and within about 20 minutes, I realized 15, 20 minutes that I was listening, my headache was gone. And
Mm.
it had gotten crazy. So almost anything, a lot of the things that we've got tones on there for stroke and for diabetes and for
Mm. Mhm.
insect, anything you can think of, it's on there. And there's energetic, frequencies that can go in and test your body and bring it back into balance, because we are energy after all. Am I correct?
I say, oh yeah, we are,
Yeah. So, but
we,
anyway,
yeah,
yeah.
yes,
But you got
yeah. Well,
the
give thanks to
you got the
everybody.
homeopathic and the uh what would you call it, the herbal and the psychedelic
And the
solutions.
psychedelic, yes,
Psychedelic solutions. And you
I
also, we
say,
didn't say this, but you are also a raw food chef.
yes,
And we
sure,
talked about the fact that you've more of now focused on the herbs and so forth, but you actually um are a chef. And I'll have to probably come down to DC and check out your raw food, your raw foods, because I'm
yeah,
interested in just the taste and so forth, and getting used to the taste of food that's not been had the life cooked out of it. So
yes,
again,
indeed,
thank you so much.
yes,
Thank you all again. I
keep
can't
prayers.
go out with have y'all rocking out with my Dr. G theme music because I'm on a cell phone and the music's not on here.
Yes,
Send out some energy to my PC that it will come
mm.
back to life so that I can do what I do the right way. But thank you.
Thank you,
Um,
yeah, and
thank
peace
you,
to
brother.
everybody. And
Yes, thank you,
thank
brother Raz.
you.
Please reach out to him um, for more information. And I'm pretty sure, because my talking to you, you're so knowledgeable that whatever ails you, he will give you a holistic solution for that ailment. So, thank you
Yes,
once
indeed.
again. Until next time, this is Dr. G saying good night. Love y'all. Peace out.